Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to Rocket League News, the series where we go over everything that happened the last week in Rocket League. And as always, before we get into the news, if you guys do enjoy, hit subscribe. The more people who subscribe kind of lets me know that you guys enjoy the content, and I'll continue to make it. And also consider leaving a like on the video. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So first up, we have a story from Psyonix, and Psyonix have finally responded, or they've listened to the community. As you guys know, the community has had their issues with Psyonix recently. Even the esports organizations have. We had that open letter to Psyonix come out earlier this year, and just a lot of stuff revolving around Psyonix. And one of the things that people really wanted to bring back was community tournaments, because I think in 2019 Psyonix really didn't support any community tournaments at all. And what's crazy is they used to, but then they didn't. And I think it was 2019, like I said. I don't remember the exact date or the exact time frame when they were and weren't supporting community tournaments, but I know there was a kind of a while period when they just weren't. They kind of stopped altogether, even though they had been in the past. And people were wondering, well, why not? And now, well, Psyonix just announced that they're going to be sponsoring 10 community tournaments. So Psyonix come out with this article saying community tournaments take over June. And in there, it goes on to list which tournaments are going to be in there. Some ones to mention, there's the Brawl 10K presented by Lawler, and then the Euro Cup 10K presented by LeftAmir. The Salt Mine 2 for Johnny Boy. There's going to be one for College, Asia, Oceania. So it's really cool because remember, LeftAmir wanted to do a community tournament where he gave up $1,000 of his own dollars. He sent that tweet out at the beginning of the year, and with Psyonix's help, he was able to do a $10,000 one. And then Psyonix is finally supporting an Asian tournament for the Middle East and those areas. And it's just, this is really something that we haven't ever seen from Psyonix before, and I think it's a really good sign. It's a sign, Psyonix basically saying, we heard you, don't worry, we're listening, just relax, guys. That's basically what they're saying with this. And you know what? I think it's pretty cool that they did this. They didn't have to, but the community wanted it. So thank you, Psyonix. And of course, whenever the community gets what they want, they have to complain about it. And it's not a lot of people. There's very few people complaining about LeftAmir in this case. And so as you guys know, LeftAmir is going to be hosting one of the community tournaments. However, 4 professional teams are invited, and his team is one of the teams that were invited. I'm pretty sure it's because of their world championship placing or regional championships for Europe, and people are just blowing this way out of proportion. People getting mad at LeftAmir because not only is he hosting the tournament, but he's also the coach for one of the teams. And basically the only argument I've really seen against LeftAmir is that some people say because of this, maybe he could cheat or do something sketchy in some way to help boost his team. In fact, most of the posts don't even say that he could cheat. They just say that any decisions that he makes could carry bias, which is just it's stupid. It's so stupid. There's also a ton of people defending LeftAmir. Believe me, it's a vast minority of people who actually think this way. And I personally, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand why people are thinking this way, and he even came out with multiple statements. Here's one of them. I worked on this for 4 months. Psyonix reached out to me to be a sponsor. I'll just show you some tweets. I mean, some people just really don't like this. Some people think that the only reason they invited 4 teams is because Mouse was 4th. If Mouse was 6th, then they would have invited 6. People have all these speculations on what's going on. I mean, Mouse did get top 4 at regionals, so honestly, who cares? And most people don't really care. Most people don't even see this as a minor issue. But then the people who do see this as an issue are blowing it up. It's just, LeftAmir even did say that he wouldn't be coaching his team for this tournament just because, maybe it wouldn't be right since he's hosting the tournament. It would be like an RLCS admin also coaching one of the teams, So LeftAmir also said that he's just not going to be coaching for this one tournament. And to be honest, it's a community tournament, okay? This isn't RLCS, it's just for the community, really. I don't see the big deal, personally. Johnny Boy would even come out and say that it's really not a good look for those individuals because, honestly, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's everything that's going on with Psyonix and LeftAmir and the tournaments going on. And yeah, this June we're going to be getting a lot of tournaments, so stay tuned for that. And then next up we have Affinity, and which organization are Affinity going to be signing with? Well, the rumor is Alpine esports. And this guy came out on Reddit with just a 500 IQ theory that makes perfect sense as to why Affinity would be signing with Alpine Esports. And I'll put it up on screen. I mean, this guy just like 600 IQ'd the entire system and figured this out. So let's quickly go over this. It says, first of all, they've been running community Rocket League tournaments with solid prizes for a while, which definitely shows they are interested. Second, all 3 players on Affinity, plus their coach and substitute, followed their Twitter, and I even checked myself, it's true. Also, Affinity have been recently hinting they've signed with an org. And finally, all their profile pictures on Steam used to be a pine cone, which kind of relates them to Alpine. Also, on top of that, each one of their pictures had the same color scheme as the Alpine graphics on Twitter. So looking at all this, it actually makes sense that, especially with all the hints that they've been dropping, that they'll be signing with that esports organization. Although, not gonna lie, Affinity weren't really trying to hide it, especially because their profile pictures on Steam, they changed it to represent Alpine esports, so it's not like they were really hiding it. So maybe it's more of a 400 IQ play, not a 600 IQ play, but still, it was really good super sleuthing from this guy, and now the entire community is basically on board with that's going to be their organization that's going to pick them up. Of course, I'll link everything down in the description, so if you want to check out this Reddit thread, you can. Also, on top of that, everybody on Affinity did post something similar to this on their Twitter, like Magic Bear did, kind of saying, where are we going to be going? It's confirmed that an org is picking them up, but which org will it be? Well, we're not 100% sure yet, but it looks like Alpine. I mean, it is a really good theory supported by some evidence, so you guys definitely should check that out. And then next up in the news, Varsity Sports continue their tryouts to find a replacement for Flakes, this time Freaky of Veloce, tried out with the duo of Devo and Ranaki ahead of the action-packed but yet long off-season. So, remember we talked about in the last video, Nolly was trying out with Varsity Sports. It looks like that didn't go through, and now they're trying out Freaky. Remember, guys, I do feel like I always need to mention this. These are just tryouts, you know, who knows? There's a good chance nothing happens and Freaky doesn't leave Veloce. But as we do know, Veloce is trying out different teams with Archie because they want to bring on Archie, but they don't know who to kick. And recently they've been trying out with maybe Freaky here, Cassio there, just to try to figure out what their team is going to be like. So somebody's going to be off Veloce, we know that, but who is it going to be? Well, only time will tell. And next up in the news, we have Team Endpoint, and Team Endpoint officially announced that Metsanauris is going to be joining their starting roster. So after they had a really, really good performance in Spring Series, coming out with just a playstyle that was just very uncharacteristic of any RLCS team, really, and they did very well, they decided to make Metsanauris on the full-time roster. Now, there's a couple things I wanted to point out. A lot of people are saying, do Endpoint have the ability to be a top 3 team in Europe? And the answer to that is I don't know. If you look at their bracket versus, let's say, someone like Mouse Sports, Endpoint definitely didn't have the hardest bracket in the world, so I don't think their Spring Series was a true test as to how they'll face up in league play against every single team, but at the same time they did play pretty well, and I think they'll definitely have a good showing in league play. And next up, of course, there's another argument in the Rocket League community. Who would have guessed that more arguments would arise from literally nothing? Well, I guess not literally nothing, but people have been talking about this a lot. You can see on Reddit, so I've come to the conclusion that Turbo vs. KDOP for the GOAT of Rocket League is kind of like Jordan versus LeBron in basketball. Different arguments for both players, and this is not the first time something like this has been posted. Basically, people have been arguing about who is the GOAT of Rocket League. So, obviously, as you can see, I voted Turbo. Most people have voted Turbo, but just for the sole fact that, I mean, he has more accolades, more world championships. But I guess the question to you guys is, who do you think is the GOAT of Rocket League? I'd like to hear all your guys' thoughts in the comments below, because everybody really does have their own take and what they consider when talking about the GOAT. Like, what are you considering? Just world championships? How heavily do you consider all the minor tournaments and maybe other majors that weren't world championships that maybe KDOP and Turbo have won? What are you guys thinking? Let me know below. And then last but not least, as always at the very end, we go over the Fusion tournament, and the results are in for North America. The end has happened. Who are the Fusion tournament champions? Well, for 3v3, Space Station won it in an amazing Game 7. And then in 2v2s, I mean, of course, Space Station won it. Space Station, one of the best 2s teams in the world. And then for 1v1, of course, it was Rogue. I mean, props to Lionblaze being the only person to take a single game off of Rogue. Took 2 off of him, in fact, but a First Killer. But, you know, First Killer's just too good at ones. He's insane. Just outscoring Lionblaze barely in every single game. And at the end of the day, Space Station Gaming, because they came in first in 2 different brackets, they took the dub. Rogue second and Affinity third. So yep, that is basically everything I wanted to talk about, everything I wanted to go over. That's what happened this last week in Rocket League. So thank you guys all for watching. If you did enjoy, as always, hit subscribe, and you guys can leave a like, follow me on Twitter, do all that stuff if you want. But yep, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.